This is Newsroom. Hello and welcome from Johannesburg here in South Africa. My name, of course, Evan Jansen. This show is live. It's broadcast from our studios here in Auckland Park. We're also streaming live on YouTube right now with the entire show available on our YouTube channel all of the time. Today, we look at reaction to Finance Minister Nhlanhla first budget speech. Then we'll continue the Dagga debate with the EFF joining us from Cape Town today. South Africa also has the highest numbers of male breast cancer. How about that? And we'll conclude today's show by looking at the Zimbabwe Achievers Awards. First, though, let's go to Katrine Milan to give us the morning's news.
Well, hello and welcome to Newsroom. I'm Katrine Milan, and let's take a look at those top stories this morning. COSATU's Central Executive Committee is today expected to resume its discussions on whether it should expel trade union NUMSA after requesting it to explain why it should remain in the Labour Federation. ANC Deputy President Cyril Ramaphosa, who is leading the ANC task team, says a conducive environment should be created for all unions to remain within COSATU. Ramaphosa has also called on COSATU to handle the issue of its Secretary-General Zwelinzima Vavi with fairness. He says disciplinary charges against Vavi are among outstanding issues that the Federation should deal with on its own. Finance Minister Nhlanhla medium-term budget speech has revealed that South Africa has reached a turning point and needs to act decisively to protect its finances. In his speech yesterday, Nene announced major reductions in government spending and boosting tax collections over the next 3 years.
If we are to avoid reducing expenditure in real terms, about 15 billion rands will have to be per year in additional revenue will need to be raised. Details will be announced in the 2015 budget.
ETV boss Marshall Golding has been immediately suspended over allegations of gross misconduct. This according to a statement by Black empowerment investment company Hoskin Consolidated Investments. Golding will face a disciplinary hearing into the gross misconduct allegations on the 27th of October. The charges against Golding were, according to the HCI, found to be of a very serious nature, warranting disciplinary action. Golding's shocking suspension is one of the highest profile suspensions within South Africa's TV industry to date. The trial of Ntokozo Hadebe, accused of the gruesome murders of 3 Diepsloot toddlers, will continue in the High Court in Pretoria today. Hadebe has pleaded not guilty to 12 charges, including murder, kidnapping and rape. The grandmother of one of the girls, 5-year-old Annalisa Mkondo, broke down on the witness stand yesterday, recalling what happened on that tragic day last year.
I want the accused to be locked behind bars. Then I'll find peace.
The Ebola crisis continues, with the death toll now reaching 4,877 lives. The World Health Organization has said that the real numbers of cases are believed to be much higher than reported, suggesting it could be as high as 15,000. Although Ebola has been contained in Nigeria and Senegal, the disease is now also reportedly spreading towards the Ivory Coast.
These trials will incorporate the largest number of volunteers and will be very important in terms of determining both the safety and the immunogenicity. And these data are absolutely crucial to allow decision-making on what dose level should go in the efficacy testing in Africa.
And Canada's Prime Minister Stephen Harper has vowed to redouble the nation's fight against terrorist organizations. This after a gunman whose name was on a terror watch list yesterday killed a soldier and stormed Canada's parliament before being shot dead. Remember, all these top stories and more are available on our Newsroom Facebook page. You can also follow us on Twitter at SABC Newsroom. Evan, over to you.
Thanks, Katrine. There's a general consensus that Finance Minister Nhlanhla had a difficult balancing act to play when outlining the expenditure framework for the next 3 years. But some social partners argue that the cost-cutting measures announced by government will affect NGOs and some social spending.
It's been a tough mid-term budget outlook for the finance minister. He's announced plans to keep the wage increases in the public sector to within inflation, but workers have been demanding 15%. While there were no notable COSATU or SACP leaders attending the mini-budget, the ANC believes the wage bill containment is fair.
It is a very important issue to warn South Africans that we are going through constraints. The cost of personnel expenditure at government level needs to be harmonized with the available resources, and it's a fair comment. I think
that they're going to keep the public service wage bill in terms of inflation, because I think that's an important message to send to public servants, that government is concerned to look after them because they understand that those workers have expenditures.
Some social partners are concerned. They say the medium expenditure framework will result in reduced budgets for education and health.
We would have liked to have seen a better indication of at what point the National Health Insurance or the Minister of Health has been talking about universal health coverage or access. But essentially we want to see where is that proposal in the rands and cents.
Political analysts, however, have commended the Finance Minister for emphasizing that South Africa's economic and social blueprint is the National Development Plan.
The message around showing the commitment to implement the National Development Plan is important for not just South Africans but also for the international world, because the question that the rating agencies keep asking is what plan is the country working towards achieving? And
taxpayers are set for a surprise in February next year. Government is expected to increase taxes in order to augment revenue.
And I think that's quite responsible, because what will happen, investors will discount everything in our rand value now. So come February, they would have already expected tax increases, and we won't see effects on our currency in February. So it's quite responsible.
What remains unclear is what form and shape will these imminent tax increases take. The question is whether will they come as personal income tax, corporate tax, or value-added tax. Ulilani Philip, SABC News, Parliament.
Economists say the minister has little room to manoeuvre and may have to get tough on state-owned entities and civil servants. Now, I'm joined by Lesiba Motata, who is the head of economic research at Investment Solutions. Good morning, Lesiba. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, very good.
There's no magic pill for fixing the economy. There's no silver bullet that's going to cure the ills overnight. With what came out of yesterday's midterm budget speech, are you happy with the measures that are being taken to deal with what we now see as an ailing economy?
Yeah, look, it is really a difficult economic environment we find ourselves in. The minister tried to do the right things. Cutting spending is the right approach. However, they were very bullish on their revenue collection capacity going forward. I was very surprised about that, because if you look at the economy and the downgrades that also have come through from the budget, suggest that revenues from the fiscus are not going to be as robust as expected. So it's a tough one. Happy, I think more can be done. The wage bill conversation for public sectors is very critical. I really don't think we have a choice. If you look at where we are in the country, we need to do structural reform. We need to be much more determined in terms of what we want to achieve, given what we have planned. If you look at the medium-term framework on policy, suggests that we need to grow by 5% every year. We're very far from that, and I don't think this budget will be able to achieve that.
One of the worrying factors for the man in the street is tax increases being mooted to be put to come to the fore in February when the main budget speech is delivered. What is that picture that you see? How large will it be, and what do you expect the reaction to be to that?
Yeah, having read the chapter on fiscal policy, it's not very clear that we will really definitely get tax hikes, for example, for households. It's not very clear what the detail of that tax will be, because they talk about administrative processes that could boost revenues, etc. So I'm not all that convinced that the government in this very dire economic situation will want to put another burden on the households. It could come in other forms, but I'm not sure that we want to hit the consumer very hard from where we are.
You spoke about more should be done in order for us to arrest this decline. We've had a very difficult year, as it were, with the the kind of strife we've seen in the mining sector and elsewhere. What else needs to be done? If you look at what happened yesterday, COSATU were not present in Parliament to support the Minister with this budget speech. It seems as if there's a continuous standoff with Labour at the moment. How do we overcome that obstacle that we don't have another year, next year, the year after, as we've had this year?
We just need to sit down and have a conversation, particularly around the Labour situation. The truth of the matter is that we come from a huge financial crisis that has derailed the global economy and our own. Since then, we've not been able to grow at rates that will afford some of this commitment that has come through. So what needs to happen is we need to also support the policies of the government, particularly around inflation targeting, to ask for wage increases that are significantly higher than inflation will be detrimental not only to the job security of these industries or even in the public sector, but also of the overall economic growth that we see in the economy. So more needs to be done in terms of we need to just be sane. We need to calm down and think about the economic realities that we found ourselves in, and the Minister had no choice but to do what he's talking about now.
You speak about sanity, but in the end we are in South Africa, and South Africans, we don't save money. We like to spend money that we don't have. What's the message that the man in the street must take out of this budget announcement by the Finance Minister? Time to tighten our belts, time to save, time to look forward a little bit, maybe ride out the little turbulence that we're going through?
Indeed. I think one needs to pay down debt. If you listen also to the new governor of the Reserve Bank, he's talking about that policy is way too accommodative. So you may actually find that interest rates will have to go up in time, and also should the detail come out suggesting that households will also be taxed. In that way, what you need to do is to pay down debts. That's the critical thing that needs to be done.
The key point, fiscal consolidation, I think, is probably what the Minister would like to have conveyed. Will the public service be committed to this fiscal consolidation? There was talk about inflation-related increases only for public service servants. Is there the political will for this?
I think we need to be very clear as a society that it is not sustainable to continually put strain on the fiscus with wage demands that are above inflation when there is no economic growth to support our revenue. In fact, if you look at where we are now, it will appear that we are borrowing money to maintain our expenditure. If you look at, in fact, relative to all other emerging markets, South Africa's net debt to GDP has grown about 15% of GDP in the last 10 years. And that suggests that we basically are borrowing our way out of our economic activity. And that is totally not sustainable. And we just need to think about it and be sane about what the economic realities are. It's not sustainable.
Let's hope that sanity prevails. It seems every year when strike season comes on that we are forced to make promises, and we're forced to almost to an extent where we extort it a little bit. But Lesiba, thank you for joining us today and bringing the message that it's time for sanity to prevail. If you don't have money, you can't spend it.
That's it. That's what needs to happen.
Thank you very much for joining us today.
Right.
That is the head of economic research at Investment Solutions, Lesiba Motata, joining us today after Finance Minister Nhlanhla Nene's budget speech yesterday. But let's take a look now at what you said, or what you're thinking about the budget. In the end, it is something that will affect all of us in the pocket. 9 November, Mr. Lip says, the budget speech makes sense, yeah. You saving money makes sense, I say. Doing more with less, I can take that, says Moleboge. Yes, we all need to do more with less. Loving the outlook given in the budget speech, but there's need for explicit goals in state-owned entities. Very, very important. Mzi Mahala says, If I can, budget speech in Nhlanhla, bold and confident. I hope this will be converted to practical results. Bold and confident economic growth. Only in 2017 will we see that. Lorika Ngomalo says, how I'd love to hear from the budget speech that government is selling their Eskom shares. Well, I don't think that's going to happen. I think that debt that Eskom has, that might have to be written off as shares for government in that entity. More than 60 billion, I tell you. Time for us now to take a look at the front pages from around the globe today. The story most international papers are focusing on is yesterday's shooting in Canada's capital. Who said they're a peaceful nation? There you'll see the Times in Europe also looking at the story of that gunman that shot and killed a soldier at a war memorial in Ottawa. The shooting came just hours after Canada raised its terror threat level. Then Far East, the South China Morning Post, is also looking at that shooting, which has reportedly come after another soldier was killed on Monday in a hit-and-run attack by a Muslim convert in that country. In the US and Italy, you'll see more pictures of the lockdown that took place in Ottawa. Now, footage that shows the hail of bullets being fired inside the Canadian Parliament building yesterday has been uploaded to YouTube. Let's take a quick look at the chaos that ensued. Yes, a peaceful country. We are all at the effect of terror, it seems, all around the world. You're watching Newsroom. We'll be back after a short little break.
Hello, my people. It's me, your Minister of Parties and Recreation. There's a serious thing happening in our country. Non-participation. I can see that no one is dancing with Mlungu because he doesn't have rhythm. Same. That's why we must make party South Africa's 12th official language to unite us under one language that we all understand. Party! From now on, participation for the nation.
Help make party South Africa's 12th official language. Sign the petition today.
Get done. Get done. Organize.
Welcome back here at Newsroom here on SABC News. 2 out of every 100 South African men are diagnosed with breast cancer, which is the highest anywhere in the world. Almost half of male breast cancer patients at the time of diagnosis are stage 3 or 4. Lack of awareness may postpone seeking medical attention, and most men do not seek help due to the stigma attached with breast cancer. Now, from the Breast Health Foundation, we are joined by Louisa Mtembu and Patrick SABC, who is a breast cancer survivor. Very good morning, guys. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning.
Louisa, if I can start with you, it's stigmatized, but how common is it here in South Africa, and how often do men actually come and seek help with breast cancer in South Africa?
Many people are sick with breast cancer because some of them, they deny us. If they have problem of lumps in the breast, they think maybe it's a African things.
Yeah.
It's not a breast cancer. Some of them, they can say, no, it's not a breast cancer, it's a, I don't know what can I say with the English. I don't know what can I say with English, but it's kibulo, you tagati, something like that.
Okay, it's a witchcraft.
Witchcraft, yes, it's a witchcraft. So, but really, the thing is this: if you want to know that it's a witchcraft or it's a breast cancer, you're supposed to go to the doctors first, and the doctors will diagnose you if it's a breast cancer or it's not.
Patrick, I'd like to come to you and tell us your story. Firstly, you're very brave to come and appear on television and tell us this story. Tell us your story when you were diagnosed and how it all happened. It must have been a massive shock to you.
No, it was a denial at first. When I discovered, in actual fact, I didn't discover it. My partner discovered it because she was feeling me. She said, "Yo, you've got a lump. You better go and check yourself." I said, "No ways. There's nothing like that. I don't have a man cannot have a breast cancer." So it took me some time. Maybe we discovered it 2010, if I'm not mistaken. Yes. But it took me time to go to the doctor because I didn't want to go to the doctor. Eventually, at one stage, I had pain. Because it was not pain, it was pain-free, this thing. But something hit me here, and then I started to get that feeling. Then I went to the doctor, and because I was training, I was doing all the exercise, I said, "No, man, it must be a muscle, it's not a lump." So when I went to the doctor, he confirmed the same thing that I said. He said, "No, it's a muscle, don't worry." I went away. After a while again, man, it started to come back, this thing. I had to go back to him. I said, "Hey, this thing is coming back." So that's when he started to refer me to breast clinic. Breast clinic, then they started to do the biopsies and all those things. But still, I was denying. I was saying to myself, "No, I don't have this thing." Eventually, the last day when they had to do the operation, that's when I started to realize that I've got the cancer. But at the moment, I'm on remission.
So you're fighting it and you're winning it, you're beating it. That's fantastic news.
Yeah.
Luis, I want to come back to you. We've just heard Patrick's story, and it's a typical story here in South Africa. I think all men would be in denial about breast cancer if you have it. You spoke about Umtagati a little bit earlier, about witchcraft being blamed for this kind of thing. What are some of the other things that, the other stigmas that are common when dealing with male breast cancer?
Okay, the men, they always have a breast cancer because some of them, if they find a lump on the chest, they think that it's nothing, as he said. It's nothing. Meanwhile, it is. It is. So if they go to the doctor, they find that they have breast cancer. But some of them, they still said, "No, it's not."
Yeah.
It's not.
And Patrick, tell us about your group, your friends. You know, men can be very harsh, and they can almost make fun of you always as like, men, boobs, whatever the thing is that they say. Well, was it very difficult to spread or to tell this news to your friends, and how do they react to the news when you said it?
No, most of my friends, they do understand. Maybe most of them, they took it lightly, but I'm the one that always joke about this thing. Even if when I go to play with them on the shower, because I'm a golfer. When we play golf, I said, "You are beaten by one breast man." I always joke with them. But it's most of the thing, it was fine with me.
So not a lot of prejudice, not a lot of people being prejudiced towards you.
It was me who's got the same thing. You said, maybe I've got genes like that falls with the women and all those things. Maybe, all those things. But I haven't heard most of my friends saying anything.
That's maybe why you have such a soft touch on the greens and you can beat them,
Yeah.
Louisa, finally, tell us about the campaigns that you are doing and how you're trying to get men to understand that this can happen to them.
Okay. If the doctor, they already diagnose the men, they bring them to us, and we talk to them, we explain to them that it's not say you are a woman, you are a man, but some of the people, they have genes for the women by birth. So that's why you have breast cancer, and a lot of them, they do understand, but some of them, they don't. They don't want to.
Yes. Because of cultural beliefs, practice, myth, all these sorts of things. It's not a very manly thing, I suppose.
Yes, because really I have a lot of people that are coming to me, something like men. I counsel them, and then some of them, they said, no, it's not until they die. But Patrick, he was a brave man. Yes. To our patient, because he did come to our breast clinic, as I'm at breast clinic at Helen Joseph, and then we talked to him, and then we see that he's brave and he can talk to the TV and everywhere, because some of the people, I was suffered to find the men, to bring the men in the TV.
Who would come and talk to it. Yes, it is like that. You know, men firstly don't like to go to the doctor because, you know, we have all the fears that we don't want to talk about. Sure. But, you know, to talk about something like breast cancer is very difficult for most men because, you know, it's not a very manly thing to do. But, Patrick, you are, in my eyes, more of a man for coming in today and telling us about this, because it's not something that we think about, and the way that you're dealing with it with a great sense of humor is really an inspiration to all of us. Thank you, Louisa.
I think it's the second time he came to the TV.
Well, thank you. Thank you for coming in, both of you, and sharing with us the story of male breast cancer. It's the highest, we're the highest country in the world. 2 out of every 100 men that you meet have breast cancer in this country. Can you imagine that? Yes. Well, now we move on. Last week, Nedbank, the Sports Trust and the Department of Sport and Recreation unveiled a R1 million multi-purpose sport facility to Musenga Vadzimu Primary School in Diepsloot. Now, as part of Nedbank's Cup Sports Development Program, Goals for Goals, for every goal scored during this year's campaign, 10,000 Rand was donated towards the erection of the facility. To tell us a little bit more about this exciting program today, we're joined in our Cape Town studio by Nedbank's Senior Marketing Manager, Maseda Ratchikuni. A very good morning to you, Maseda. Thank you for joining us.
Morning, Evan, and morning as well to the viewers.
Last week, Nedbank and others provided a R1 million multi-purpose sports facility in Diepsloot, but many other schools also benefit in other ways. Tell us a little bit more about what you guys are doing.
Look, it's an initiative that's linked to our Nedbank Cup campaign. And I think one of the things is that we as Nedbank are proud of is to make sure that any initiative that we actually put together, particularly sponsorships as well, we do some giving back to community. So in 2010, really, we started a kit program. And so as part of our Nedbank Cup 2014, we had 2 major initiatives. The one was to give kits to the various schools. So we covered about 110 schools around the country. Secondly, the big prize, which I think you were talking about as well, is the fact that we had the Nedbank Cup Goals for Goals campaign. And that really was, it's a big facility that we give to a particular school. And what's nice about this particular facility is that it's, first of all, it lasts for 20 years. As you know, one of the challenges that schools have is, they just don't have the money sometimes to pay for electricity, sometimes to pay for water, or those kind of things. So this facility, once we've placed it there, it can last for 20 years. All they have to do is actually to look after it, they clean it. The other thing as part of this is that it can play various sports. So we don't discriminate versus boys and girls. So you can play soccer, 6-a-side soccer, you can play netball, you can play basketball, you can play futsal. So there are many, many different sports that you can actually play on this. One of the critical thing is where we kind of connected is the fact that for every single goal that they score in the Nedbank Cup, and in this year they've actually scored 100 goals, we actually, as Nedbank, we make a donation to the Sports Trust. So it's a partnership between us and the Sports Trust. And then at the end of the campaign, we make sure that we actually put a facility down. This is the second facility that we actually put down. And previously, in the previous Nedbank Cup campaign, it was actually in Pietermaritzburg. So we have a facility now in Diepsloot, and we're very, very proud about it as well.
Now Maseda, just Tell us about what other projects are in the pipeline in the short term, and also how can you get the public to get involved and to help you guys in this process?
Look, I think the way we look at it, we have a partnership which we've had, I think, the last 20 years, really, with the Sports Trust. And some of the partners in there includes, in fact, the Ministry of Sports and Recreation. So what we're really trying to do is, the ethos of the Sports Trust is actually to use education, rather sport to develop education. Because I think people need to have holistic education. So as part of these partnerships, we are putting quite a lot of these facilities. So this is Nedbank's contribution to that. The Ministry of Sports and Recreation has also been putting quite a lot of these facilities. And part of the thinking behind it is that globally it's been said that only 5 to 7% of sporting people will ever be, international stars. So the rest of us, may never don a Springbok shirt. But it's very, very important that young people actually play sport. So kids from 6 to 10 years of age, they need to play sport in terms of helping them as well, from motions and actually, skills. So it's an important part of developing a young person. So that's what we're trying to do, making sure we give facilities, give equipment, and give training as well, so that we get young people the opportunity to really make it in life. And as part of our Nedbank program, really, we focus on soccer, which I've explained through our Goals for Goals campaign. We focus on cycling. We also focus on road running, and we're also proud of the fact that some of our youngsters have actually made it in some of the provincial teams. So we're trying to make sure that in partnership with government, in partnership with the Sports Trust, which is really a leading sporting NGO, that we give South Africans an opportunity to play. And so, as I was saying to you, one of the challenges that we have is to make sure that we give everybody an opportunity to play, and through looking at that as well is to then able to identify talent and get that talent to make it to the Springboks or any of the Olympic teams, etc.
Well, Maseda, thank you for joining us today. You guys are doing a fantastic job, 20 years with the Sports Trust, and we can see the difference that it's making in the lives of children all around South Africa. Thank you once again for joining us today. That is Senior Marketing Manager with Nedbank, joining us live from Cape Town, Maseda Ratsikuni. Let's now take a look at what you are talking about again on social media. What's the buzz on Twitter? Remember, at SABC Newsroom is where we at. Oh, it's football. Don't think Real Madrid got out of first gear against Liverpool. That's right. That's about right. First gear was enough. 3-0 at halftime. Thank you and good night. Liverpool showed just how poor their squad is. Very average signings in the summer. Suarez carried them. Madrid won't even need a shower. Jamie, that's very harsh, my friend. Very harsh. Anekwe says, Cristiano pure class. Anything he does on the pitch is magic. God of soccer. Yeah, he will tell you that he's the god of soccer himself as well. There we have a lovely picture. What's that picture of? Oh, we missed it. Anyhow, let's take a look at our Facebook page now. What's happening on Newsroom's Facebook page? That's where we love you to interact with us. Go in there, put a comment down. Tell us what you think on any of the stories that we've got up today. You will see there that the trial of the man accused of the gruesome murders of 3 Diepsloot toddlers continues at the High Court of Victoria. Then the Congress of South African Trade Unions Central Executive Committee is expected to resume its discussions on whether it should expel the National Union of Metalworkers of South Africa after requesting it to explain why it should remain in the Labour Federation. And then Public Protector Thuli Madonsela has said that her office can intervene if families of South Africans who died in the Nigerian church collapse need further assistance. You can find all of those stories and a whole lot more on Newsroom's Facebook page. There you see it right there. All the latest all the time. You can also go to sabc.co.za/news for all the latest news on all of our platforms, digital, online, and of course on air. You're watching Newsroom. We'll be back after a short break.
One of the most recognized and well-known leaders in the market for premium quality chocolate, shares with us the history of making chocolate.
Using a very good quality one, literally the possibilities are endless according to how far your creativity.
What I can just say to them is that they are missing out on the best chocolate in the world.
That's Kaleidoscope, Sundays 5:30 p.m. on SABC News.
Hello and welcome back. You're with Newsroom on SABC News. Let's have a look at the top stories this morning. COSATU's Central Executive Committee is today expected to resume its discussions on whether it should expel trade union NUMSA after requesting it to explain why it should remain in the Labour Federation. ANC Deputy President Cyril Ramaphosa, who is leading the ANC team, says a conducive environment should be created for all unions to remain within COSATU. Ramaphosa has also called on COSATU to handle the issue of its Secretary-General Zwelinzima Vavi with fairness. He says disciplinary charges against Vavi are among outstanding issues that the Federation should deal with on its own. Finance Minister Nhlanhla Nene's medium-term budget speech has revealed that South Africa has reached a turning point and needs to act decisively to protect its finances. In his speech yesterday, Nene announced major reductions in government spending and boosting tax collections over the next 3 years. ETV boss Marcel Golding has been immediately suspended over allegations of gross misconduct. This according to a statement by Black Empowerment Investment Company, Haskin Consolidated Investments. Golding will face a disciplinary hearing into the gross misconduct allegations on the 27th of October. The charges against Golding were, according to the HCI, found to be of a very serious nature, warranting disciplinary action. Golding's shocking suspension is one of the highest profile suspensions within South Africa's TV industry to date. And the trial of Nkozo Hadebe, accused of the gruesome murders of 3 Diepsloot toddlers, will continue in the High Court in Pretoria today. Hadebe has pleaded not guilty to 12 charges, including murder, kidnapping and rape. The grandmother of one of the girls, 5-year-old Annalisa Mkondo, broke down on the witness stand yesterday, recalling what happened on that tragic day last year. All those top stories and more are available on our Newsroom Facebook page. You can also follow us on Twitter at SABC Newsroom. Eben, over to you.
Thank you very much, Katrine. Now, it's been all about the so-called Dagga debate on Newsroom this week. This after we decided to take a political turn with the hashtag Dagga debate, as it's become known to all of you out there on social media over the last couple of months. We've extended invites to all major political parties to join us on the show and state their views on the legalization of marijuana here in South Africa. The debate began in light of the sad passing of Inkatha Freedom Party MP Mario Oriani Ambrosini, who was a strong advocate for the legalization of medical marijuana in South Africa. Well, we're joined today, we've been joined earlier in the week by the Dagga Party of South Africa, the IFP on Tuesday, the DA yesterday, and now today we are joined by the Economic Freedom Fighters to discuss their party's views on the matter. From our Cape Town studio, we're joined by EFF Member of Parliament, Andile Mnitama. Very good morning to you, Andile. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, and to your viewers as well.
Andile, I haven't heard the EFF being very vocal about the legalization or being against the legalization of marijuana. Why is that the case?
EFF is the only party that insists on the return of land, the natural resources, the mineral resources as well to our people. And the Dagga, as you say, or ganja, is part of our natural resources, which also must be returned to our people, must be used to the benefit of the nation. And the debate on the medical uses of marijuana now is dated. We should not be debating this. We should now be allowing our medical people, the laboratories and other scientists to use this for medical reasons.
Medical reasons, that's one side of the coin at the moment. The other side is the real legalization of marijuana in general? We have it in other countries, including conservative nations like the US. Is it not time maybe that South Africa thinks about the complete legalization of marijuana if one looks at, yes, there are medical benefits, but economic spin-offs and so forth? Your views?
Yes. There are three main categories under which the debate continues. One is the medical use of marijuana. This is now not a matter for debate. And we know that our people, through indigenous knowledge systems, we have used marijuana since time immemorial. It was the colonialists that brought this bad idea that marijuana is bad in general. But our people use marijuana for medical reasons, for meditative, cultural reasons, and in controlled supervised spaces. So it is a religious also, we know that it's for religious purposes, for meditation. So that is the one aspect of it. That is the medical, the cultural, and also the religious use of marijuana. But then there is the industrial, which is there are massive benefits of using particularly certain varieties that allow us for industrial development. You can even build a house using varieties of this amazing plant. And then, of course, the third is the economic benefits that accrue from the use of marijuana. So there is, in a sense, the debate has now moved towards legalization, decriminalization, including for recreational use. There is no reason why adult people cannot be allowed to use marijuana for recreational purpose. If we agree as a nation that this must be controlled so that younger people don't abuse and end up being in trouble. But for old people, we should not be preventing them using this. I and you can walk into a bottle store any day and buy a straight of a straw rum. That thing will kill you. That thing is lethal. But we as a nation and as a people believe that I will be responsible enough and not kill myself using this drug, which and alcohol is a drug. And in fact, there's a big argument to be made that alcohol is much more dangerous. The accidents that we experience annually in our roads largely are as a result of consumption of alcohol. So we must, as a nation, permit ourselves a debate on these questions. But on the medical side of things, we should not be debating this. We should be at implementation level. Marijuana, we know its properties, its qualities for health.
Have you had engagements with other political parties on this matter? We spoke to the DA yesterday, and the DA said that they would be against legalization of cannabis in South Africa. How do you view that? And do you think it's not maybe time for South Africa to think about a referendum on the complete legalization of marijuana?
No, I don't think we need a referendum. I think we need a conversation. The DA is always missing the point. Even when the Inkatha Freedom Party, Conservative Party, realizes that medicinal use of marijuana brings huge relief, there is international evidence to show this. The US, which is a conservative country, has legalized not just for medicinal use, also for recreational use. And by the way, in Colorado, which is the first of the states in the US to legalize marijuana, they are showing the economic benefits. And this idea that if you legalize, people are going to go into harder drugs, there is no evidence for this. The other nation, which is Uruguay is the first nation to totally decriminalize the use of marijuana. There, the idea was that drug cartels, and as long as there was criminalization of marijuana, you drive this whole process underground, and drug cartels take over and basically create all unhealthy situations, including illegal movements of the drug, and there is no, making it into drugs, and there is no control. But if you legalize it, then as a nation we have a better possibility to control the uses and the benefits of a natural herb such as this. By the way, I went to Denmark a few years ago. I was shocked to find South African marijuana on the streets of Denmark being sold. But we as a people don't get the benefit. I also know in Amsterdam, if you go to Amsterdam, in those places where the use of marijuana is legalized, we will find South African marijuana there. But us in this country have not been able to harness a natural, potent in the sense of a positive sense. The properties of marijuana are amazing. We have not been able to harness it for our use and also to make sure that it does not harm our people.
Andile, thank you very much for joining us. Those are the views of the EFF on the legalization of marijuana. They say it can only benefit the country and the people, and they are for the complete legalization of marijuana in South Africa. We continue the Dakar debates, but let's move on with the show. Next month, the annual Zimbabwe Achievers Awards are set to take place at Gallagher Convention Centre in Midrand to honour those who've been making their country proud. Katrine recently sat down with the organisers to find out a little bit more.
Founded in the year 2010 by Conrad Mwanza, the Zimbabwe Achievers Awards, which is a celebration of talent, art, business and expression. The awards, which have been held in the United Kingdom since then, are to be held for the first time in South Africa, aimed at recognising Zimbabweans who have pushed the limits against all odds to raise the flag high. In studio today, we are joined by Richard Moyo, Zim Achievers Awards South Africa CEO, and Conrad Mwanza, Zim Achievers Awards United Kingdom Chairman. Welcome to Newsroom, guys.
No, thank you for having us.
Conrad, I would just like to start with you. The idea of the Zim Achievements Awards already started back in 2010. Can you just give us a bit of more of the background and the details behind it?
Yeah, I mean, Zim Achievers was started in 2010, but basically the idea behind it was to try and acknowledge and highlight the positive contribution that Zimbabweans do to the communities they live in. So it was very important that in the United Kingdom there could have been a different perception of Zimbabweans. So we also wanted to say, what about the Zimbabweans who are doing and making a positive contribution to the United Kingdom? So that's how the Zim Achievers started. And we have been doing that for the past, since 2010, every year.
And then, Richard, the idea to host it this year in South Africa, when did that come about?
I think about last year, because part of the sponsorship that Zim Achievers in the UK enjoyed was from MoneyGram International, which has a base here in South Africa. So they took a keen interest and they asked if we could put together the same event this side, really on the same template, wanting to celebrate and recognize those top achieving Zimbabweans who are making a positive difference in the communities wherein they live.
Who are these achievers?
Look, they've all come from different aspects of life. In business, you have achievers here in South Africa who are doing very well. You have people like the MTN CEO, who's Zimbabwean. It could be from the entertainment side. You also have people like Barry Hilton, who is also Zimbabwean. So there's different people who are making positive contribution. I mean, it's very also important to highlight that we're not saying we are all coming to throw a birthday party in South Africa. It's also recognizing South Africans as well who are playing a part in being a friend of Zimbabwe, for example. So it's more or less saying Zimbabweans who are contributing positively into South Africa and South African who are also hosting us as well. So it's very important that we mention that South Africa is involved.
What are the plans for the future? Any plans of taking these achievement awards to Zimbabwe, maybe in the future?
Absolutely. I think it will be important to go back to where it all started. Because of one reason or another, there's a lot of Zimbabweans who are outside of Zimbabwe, but there's still quite, a significant number of top achieving Zimbabweans back home. So I think plans for the future definitely include taking the award ceremony to Zimbabwe itself.
Now, the awards ceremony, can you guys tell me a bit more about that? When is that being held? Who can go to these award ceremonies?
Okay, so the awards will take place on the 8th of November, so it's just a few weeks' time. We'll have them at Gallagher Estate in Midrand. Tickets are available at CompuTicket. They're open to the public. Anyone who wishes to come through can do that. Obviously, the website will give you more details, zimachievers.co.za. You'll get to see who's been nominated. Voting is currently ongoing. So there are people that have been nominated and the voting process is still ongoing, I think, until the 19th. So people still have an opportunity to go in and vote so that on the night of the 8th, we can then celebrate those who have won an award in whatever discipline that they're in.
Conrad, it all started back in 2010. How has it grown over the years?
Look, it's grown quite significantly, but it's where we see it's changing the people's perception about Zimbabweans as well, and that has played a positive contribution. We're seeing that the perception changes slightly about Zimbabweans, so it's very important again to sort of like highlight that the Zimbabweans are making a positive contribution.
From your viewpoint, what is the perception of Zimbabwe at the moment, and the perception you guys are trying to change?
I guess what it is that obviously when you hear about Zimbabweans in South Africa, for example, when I've been here, it maybe be about crime, that Zimbabweans are contributing into crime. So, but then what Zim Achievers will try and say, there are other people, there are other Zimbabweans out there who are actually making positive contributions. So we want to acknowledge, we want to highlight those Zimbabweans and showcase and maybe put a spin onto a perception on Zimbabwe.
And then just the details of the event again. Can anyone join this event, and who are the achievers we're looking at this year?
Yeah, I'll pass that to the
So we, just to throw some names in the sports category, for example, we've got Tendai, the Beast Mtaurira, he's been nominated. There's Willa Katande as well, Tapua Kapini. These are all sports people that are doing different things with different clubs locally. I mean, there's 15 categories, I think. Really, the website, zimachievers.co.za, will give you quite a comprehensive insight. It will be on the 8th of November. Tickets are available at CompuTicket, and it's open to everybody. As Conrad mentioned, this is not just about Zimbabweans. The theme of the event actually is One Africa, One People. I think it was Nelson Mandela who said, I dream of an Africa which is at peace with itself. So ultimately, we are also trying to speak about the African story. It's not just about Zimbabweans, it's not just about South Africans, but it's all of us as Africans coming together to celebrate each other. There's a lot of negative perception about the people in the diaspora, migrants who do all kinds of things, but this is an African celebration, and we'll invite as many people to come through, get your ticket at CompuTicket, and join us on the 8th of November at Gallagher Estate.
Conrad, would you like to add anything to that?
I think Richard has rounded it off. Yeah, it's One Africa, One People. Africa has a story to tell, and I think it's us to tell the story. So, yeah, hopefully we'll see you on the 8th of November.
Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll be sure to upload all that information on our Newsroom Facebook page. If you want to know more about the Zimbabwe Achievers Awards, you can find it on our Newsroom Facebook page. Eben, over to you.
That was Katrin. I love that message. We are Africa, we are Earth, we are the human race. We should look after each other. Newsroom is broadcast live from our studios in Auckland Park, Johannesburg, every weekday morning between 9 and 10 a.m. The show repeats at 2 in the afternoon with a rebroadcast at 5 a.m. the following morning. We also stream live on YouTube at that time with the whole show available on demand on our YouTube channel. This is SABC News. You've been watching Newsroom. We love it in the morning.